Game Beard. Hello and welcome to the first basic tutorial for painting. Now these tutorials are for your regular gamer. There's plenty of videos out there to show you how to paint like a pro, and they're better than me, and I personally don't care. When I paint, I'm painting to play the game, and that's the emphasis of the Game Beard painting series. Is we want to paint awesome, but not so detailed that we never get our armies and our miniatures to the table. So I guess you could consider my painting quality mid-level, right? And if you're a beginner, that's an achievable goal, right? So anyways, today we're going to talk about primers and how good they are and the pros and cons, and all of that. Okay, so the first thing let's talk about is I just use regular Krylon and Rust-Oleum. Now these are obviously not the best primers. In fact, I use Rust-Oleum more than I use Krylon, but Rust-Oleum, while it's a good paint and they have plenty of interesting, very good colors, their nozzles are absolutely terrible. In fact, it's a terrible design flaw for Rust-Oleum, and they should be ashamed of themselves. This is the terrible spray product. Although the paint is pretty good and the paint is pretty cheap. So that's why I use it. What can I say? I hate it, but I use it all the time. Why? Because it's only like $5 a can. And you can get Rust-Oleum at Walmart, you can get it at Lowe's or Home Depot, and it's a pretty cheap but very useful product. Now, I got so fed up with Rust-Oleum that I started getting Krylon. And Krylon seemed to have less nozzle problems, but it's the same nozzle. And after a few cans of Krylon, I run into the same problems as Rust-Oleum. So I don't know what it is. It's these spray nozzles. These are terrible. But the other sprays nozzles have issues too. Now there's probably videos out there on, hey, you clean your nozzle? Yeah, whatever. And, stuff like that. It doesn't work. I haven't had much success. I haven't tried very hard. Anyways, my point is while I use Rust-Oleum all the time, I have about 20 cans of Rust-Oleum. I probably have like 2 or 3 nozzles that actually work. And so I use a pliers, and I just kind of remove them and I put them on the can I'm going to spray on. It's terrible. I always think, hey, maybe I'm going to like send them a letter or call them up and say, hey, your nozzle sucks. Send me some new nozzles. But I've never gotten around to it, and maybe in the future, maybe I could do a video on that, like to see if they actually send me some nozzles. Because it's a terrible spray product. But it's $5. I have some friends where they'll use the Games Workshop or some fancy primer spray. It's like 15, $20 a can. And to me, that's just not worth it, so I just suffer. One thing, though, Rust-Oleum has, which is really nice, is this camouflage series. And so these are great. And like I said, the spray doesn't work, but the colors are great. They're flat. They're ultra flat, right? And so these are pretty flat, and I really like these colors. So I have about 5 of these, and you can get them at I believe I bought these at Walmart. So I don't think they have these at like Lowe's and stuff like that. But it's meant for like outdoor stuff to spray, but it works great for camouflage and just general primer colors. So it works very well, and I really like these colors. There's another problem with Rust-Oleum and Krylon is that they have a lot of satin colors, and satin's kind of shiny. And satin is a real drag. And I recommend you avoid satin, but I do use satin, so I give you permission to use satin. Watch, here you can tell. I sprayed this guy. He's like, this is a monster from Cthulhu Death May Die Season 2. I forget his name. Anyways, right here you can see, this is the flat red. And then here's, I sprayed a satin red. Why not a flat red? Because I don't have a flat red. I was only really able to conveniently find a satin red. And so I sprayed it. And I'm spraying a couple different colors on my primer, right? And I like it. I don't like the satin effect. The reason why I put up with it is I do a lot of dry brushing and painting on top of it, washes. I do washes, dry brushing. over this whole thing. And eventually this is either going to be minimized, the satin's going to be minimized, or if it's not, technically you could spray a matte spray, like a clear matte, to remove some of that. I'm not 100% satisfied with that, but I bet you a lot of big shot painters will do stuff like that. And other game beard painting associates probably they have their own ideas on what's appropriate, and they use matte. My buddy Wayne, he's like, dude, use matte, and I'm like, I tend to be lazy, and I don't. So, but I like the look. The trick is, do you like the look? Then great. If not, use matte. I actually got a matte. You know what I really like for matte? Right here. I just bought this. I use it on my decals. This stuff works, and it's not too expensive. I wouldn't want to paint this on every figure, but this can actually, this works. So this is what, Vallejo matte. It's great. I got it from Miniature Market. Where else am I going to get it? Here's an example of a model. I primered him a satin red. And so, does he look kind of shiny? He looks okay to me, but for other players, they'll be like, dude, he's satin. Like, what are you doing? But like I said, I dry brush him. I paint, I paint on him, and so he ends up being. It subdues the satin shiny look, but you can still see it in there. You can still see it on his red skin. Does it bother me? No, but it might bother you. So I leave it up to you. The nice thing about satin, though, is that there's not a million, but there's plenty of very good satin colors that you can use. Reds, purples, yellows, and they look great. And by the time you're done dry brushing and stuff like that and painting, it subdues it. So I like the effect, but I give you permission to hate satin. I don't like satin. It's like the lesser of two evils. And same with Rust-Oleum. Rust-Oleum is the lesser of two evils. But I get good results, or at least I'm satisfied with my results. And so that's the end result. I like it. Okay. Now, also, a lot of times people will do a double spray, like on a primer. So to get like a lighting effect, right? So for instance, this model I started with black. So I started with flat black, and you can kind of see I didn't get underneath everywhere. I was kind of just haphazardly painting him. So I sprayed him black, but then from the top, I sprayed this kind of like light beige, and so it creates a kind of a lighting effect. And then underneath, he's still kind of in shadow, kind of has a nice shadow effect. And that's a very common. It's a common practice amongst miniature painters. Big shot professional painters, though, they'll use an airbrush. Airbrush will give you a better effect. I do have an airbrush, but I don't like to clean it. I don't like to get it out for stuff like this. And here's the reason why. I do so much. I'm gonna wash this guy. I'm gonna dry brush him, and all of the fine effect of an airbrush will probably be lost. And so the result of just using 2 spray cans is very satisfactory for what I'm trying to accomplish. And like I said, I'm happy with the results, so I go for it. And remember, I'm an average mid-level game painter, and I like the results. I get my armies out there. It's faster. It's more fun. You're having more fun if the results are faster, right? So anyways, I use 2 tones here, and that's a very common thing to do. All of my little examples, I have 2 tones. Now, the best example of a 2-tone is this guy right here. So this is an Elder thing this is from Cthulhu Death May Die. It's a come on game, season 2, and so these are great Cthulhu monsters, and it's a fun game. Anyways, here you can see a nice 2-tone spray paint effect. I didn't use an airbrush; I used just spray paint. An airbrush probably would have been finer, in the result, but this is pretty good in my opinion. And like I said, I'm going to dry brush it. So I started with a flat black. You can kind of see it right here, flat black. And then from the top, I sprayed it was satin. It's a set because they don't have flat lavender, but it was like a satin lavender, and it gave me a real nice effect. He's kind of spacey, atmospheric, and so like a lavender would be a nice highlight instead of a white. I could have used a white or any other color for that matter. But this is a great effect of that two-tone. And so I really encourage you to give it a try. It looks great. It's a nice effect. Okay, here's just a flat color, just black. And this is just Rust-Oleum products. Now the question is, do you lose detail? Not if you spray carefully. Don't spray too much, right? You want to take it easy. There's plenty of, primer videos out there. Basically, you don't want to spray too much, and it looks, in my opinion, it looks great. And I'm saving a lot of money, like literally $15-20 for a fancy spray can. Yeah, maybe it'll be a richer black. Maybe it'll be super ultra flat. But is it worth 20 bucks? If it is to you, go for it. I just use the Rust-Oleum. The spray itself is terrible, but the paint works pretty good. Finally, let's talk about the proper methods of spraying these guys. So this guy, this is also a two-tone. So I sprayed with like a brown, and then I had a lighter brown, and it's not that much different, but I was able to tell there's like a red and then like a light brown. Anyways, I was lazy, and I didn't. I just sprayed them like this, and I just sprayed them. I didn't lay them down. You probably want to lay down your miniatures to spray them so you can get underneath, and then you flip them over, and you spray them to get underneath. I was lazy, and I did not do it. So here you can see what happens if you don't do that. Here you can see that's the original plastic, that gray, right? Kind of in his crotch and in his pits and underneath his chin there. And so that looks pretty bad, but it's a good example of what not to do. Now, am I really concerned about it? Not really. I looked at that, I was kind of embarrassed. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna paint in there. I usually do a wash, right? The problem is a wash probably won't stick to that plastic, so I'll have to use some paint this time. So I'll probably just do like a dark brown. I'll paint in there, and I'll be done, right? And then I'm gonna dry brush him, and he's pretty good. The reason why I don't like to lay him down when I spray is because what happens is when you flip them over, if you don't wait long enough, the paint may still be tacky, and it will pull paint off the other edge. So like if I spray him like this on his back, and I spray him and I flip him over, his head may stick to that tackiness, and then it'll pull the paint away, and that's what I really dislike. So that's why I didn't do it on him. That's why I was lazy. Well, what was the result? I got this gray. Well, I have to paint it. So it's up to you to decide how you want to do it, but typically you would do that. I didn't do it with him either. I just sprayed him. But here you can see if I turn him over, you can see some gray. It's like, whoops. That's pretty, oh, especially in his, again here. That's pretty bad. But am I really concerned? Not really. I'm more concerned about not using, I don't want to use too much spray. I'm going to go back, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to dry brush this guy, and then I'm going to go fill in the blacks again. When I fill in the blacks, I'm just going to paint this area again. I'll just paint it. And so that's why I'm not super concerned. And I give you permission to not use too much spray. A lot of times beginners are super concerned about getting every nook and cranny sprayed, but you may get a result of using too much spray. And it's better to have some spots like this, and okay, I just got to go back and paint that. Or next time I'll be more careful. Or just look at it more carefully after you spray. Like I was in a hurry, right? But I could have like totally examined, like whoops. So then I could have laid him down and sprayed him there. It could have been as easy a fix as that. But I was busy painting, right? This guy I sprayed, I didn't turn him on his side, and he turned out pretty good. Although, maybe. Now you can see that this is like flat black. There's a little bit of a gloss. So I'm sure, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine for what I'm doing. I'm sure there's an ultra flat, mega flat black that's super rich, and it's probably 20 bucks a can. 15, 20 bucks a can. I don't know. I haven't shopped for them. Is it worth it to you? I don't know. Maybe. I'm going to be dry brushing the heck out of this guy. He's going to be, he's going to have gray highlights and throw some washes on. That's why I don't bother with that ultra flat, expensive black. But I leave it up to you. You're the final decision maker in this process. Finally, one more thing. Sometimes you use Rust-Oleum, and especially, and this happens with satin paints a lot. Sometimes this will be sticky, tacky to the touch. It's terrible. I hate it. So how do I avoid that? Well, don't use satin. You're like, Dave, I got all kinds of beautiful satin colors. That's fine. I use satin, so I'm guilty of this. So here's what you want to do. Spray it. If you let it sit in the garage, like on your tray, like you probably have a tray, a piece of cardboard you sprayed on, just leave it in the garage. And after a day or two, it's not as tacky. So that's one trick. Usually, though, you're in a hurry. You're going to spray it, you primer it, and then you're ready to start painting, and you pick it up. It's like, oh, this is tacky. This is terrible. Satin paint is notorious for this. So what do? If I don't wait a day, you dry brush it. I usually dry brush some highlights, or maybe you're dry brush and underpainting, and we'll talk about that in future videos. But if you dry brush it a little bit, then that extra paint on the base will make it not so tacky, or at least paint the base or paint the edge of the base. That's what I do. I usually dry brush it, and then this feels pretty good. And then I paint the miniature, and then at the end I paint the base again. So whatever your process is to help, that's fine. I don't care what you do. You can let it sit for a day or two. That will help. It might still be a little tacky. Dry brush it, or just paint the base. Or maybe get they got those fancy things to hold, like you buy them from Games Workshop or whatever. You pay like $10 to hold your miniature. Or you can just not pay $10, you just hold your miniature. See, that's where I'm coming from here. This is like the real game talk. I don't got no fancy game holder thing. I'm not no big shot pro painter. But I'm very pleased with my paint jobs. And you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a good result. So watch all the other videos to see how you can be pleased with your paint job too, and you'll be fine. You don't have to spend all that money unless you want to. Hey, you want to spend all that money? Great, go for it. But that's it. So that's our primer. I didn't show you how to spray. Just don't spray a lot and spin. You'll turn your tray and you'll spray from different angles, and just you'll dust it. You'll spray it. Don't just hold it down. And it's about like 12 inches away. Watch another primer video if you really need to know. But that's it for primer. Let's get on to all the next videos in this series to really talk about painting and all the fun we can have. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.